and gathering of one of the richest clans in Georgia. But the truth, Peyton knew, was that none of his aunts and uncles particularly liked each other. Moreover, they were all jealous of his father, the eldest and reluctant favorite son. Peyton's grandmother, instigator of the whole thing, never appeared to enjoy the picnic. In fact, it would eventually give her a case of nerves, and she would retire well before sunset. The center of activity was the lower front porch of his grandparents' Greek Revival house, which crowned a gently sloping half-acre front lawn, parted down the center by a 100-year-old live oak allée, and bordered with deep pink azaleas almost as tall as Peyton. Lacy white spirea and more azaleas framed the house with its 8 soaring columns. The white wicker porch furniture had been in the family for years, and while his grandmother frequently complained that it was old and needed replacing, his grandfather had it painstakingly repaired and restored every year. For whatever reason, he could not let it go. Right now, the porch was full to overflowing with relatives. Peyton leaned against one of the columns, watching a flock of his little cousins chase each other across the pristine carpet of zoysia grass that was his grandfather's pride and joy. Though he had 2 gardeners, George Cabot still surveyed the zoysia daily, bending down to pull an offending weed here or dig up a wild violet there. The ants fretted over his weeding. He was not as spry as he used to be and was starting to repeat himself more than usual. "Now, Daddy, if you fall and break a hip, you're going to be in a mess." Still, he weeded. With his back to the family, Peyton could listen to all of their conversations, tuning in and out as if he were turning the dial on a radio. His father's 2 sisters, Aunt Camille and Aunt Charlotte, were sharing the porch swing closest to Peyton. "Could you believe that dress Arlie Seton wore to her own daughter's wedding? Ridiculous. It was cut clear to here and twice too short for a woman half her age." Uncle Julian, the middle son, was doing what he always did, trying to sell Granddaddy Cabot on one of his big ideas. "We could parcel off 1,000 acres over by Reedsville and turn it into a residential development. We'd make a fortune. Can't you see that?" "Julian, Reedsville's not close enough to anything. Not Atlanta, not Savannah. All those vets setting up housekeeping want to be close to a city where they can find work." Nothing about Peyton's Uncle Julian was genuine. Not his smile, not his concern, and certainly not his devotion to the family. Whenever there was any heavy lifting to be done, you could count on Uncle Julian to be needed elsewhere. Peyton's mother had once said that he was doomed to go through life feeling cheated, because he believed any good fortune that fell on someone else rightly belonged to him. He fancied himself a statesman, but so far couldn't even win a seat on the Savannah City Council. Peyton spotted 2 of his cousins on a quilt underneath the ghost oak and decided to join them. Their grandfather had named the tree long ago, and the moniker was apt. Sit beneath it on a breezy night, better yet, a stormy one. And the rustle of leaves did indeed sound like a swirl of specters communing overhead. When they were children, Peyton and his cousins would dare each other to sit under the tree on windy evenings while the others hid in the azaleas, calling out into the darkness, "Ooh, I am the ghost of Ernestine Cabot, dead from the fever of 1824. Ooh, I am old rawhead swamp monster of the Okefenokee." Peyton had never been afraid of the family ghosts or the tree they supposedly haunted. There was something to be discovered way up in those branches, and he had always been more curious than fearful. Stepping off the porch, he dipped himself some homemade ice cream from a wooden freezer that was probably older than he was, and sat down on the quilt with his cousins Prentice and Winston. "Somebody's going home mighty early." Prentice nodded toward Peyton's mother, who was walking slowly up a dirt road that led from the main house to a pretty lakeside cottage about a quarter-mile away. Peyton watched his mother's back as she moved farther and farther away from the family, now and again raising a hand to her face. Just then his father appeared, following a path that led from the back of the house, through a pecan grove and out to the stables. In one hand was a highball glass, already filled. The other held his ever-present companion since he had come home from the Pacific, a bottle of bourbon. Peyton's aunt said it was the worst kind of stupid for the Army to draft men in their 30s, but one